Hey, everybody. Was Barry Morphew chasing Suzanne around the house like the feds have reportedly testified in Barry's ongoing preliminary hearing? A special agent testified that he thinks it might be evidence of movement. That's right. The witness suggests it might be evidence that Barry was chasing Suzanne throughout the house. Well, I've got a different opinion based on my own experience in tracking and analyzing cell phone data for the past 5 years, and I think it's worth talking about. So let's dig into what happened in day 1 and 2 of Barry Morphew's preliminary hearing as we prepare for day 3 and 4 in Salida, Colorado. Barry Morphew is going to be back in court this morning for the second half of his preliminary hearing, where the court is going to ultimately decide if there's enough evidence to take this case to trial. We might also hear whether the court is going to release that 130-page arrest affidavit that we've all been interested in seeing. I hope that you'll take a moment, hit that like and the subscribe button, and ring the bell so that you receive all the notifications when we release other videos like this one. Now let's jump back into this discussion. In the first 2 days of the hearing on August 9th and 10th, we heard testimony from a number of investigators, namely Chaffee County Sheriff's Office Commander Alex Walker and FBI agent Ken Harris. Evidence was released about discovering Suzanne's bike near the home and what appeared to be staging. Now that's my opinion. Statements made by Morphew to investigators were explored, and the timeline and the events, including mobile phone and vehicle tracking data, was introduced. I personally found the testimony of now retired FBI agent John Grusing intriguing, though. Grusing spoke of Barry's business trip to Broomfield and how fellow employees found his room reeking of chlorine. What I found most interesting was Agent Grusing's testimony that Morphew made up to 5 trips to a garbage dumpster, something Morphew has never been able to offer an explanation for, according to testimony. Now, there were phone calls and text messages on Mother's Day that were discussed, and then there were discussions surrounding the very private side of Barry and Suzanne's life and their marriage. Evidence was presented that suggested Suzanne suspected Barry of cheating on her, and that led her to buy a spy pen, and you've read up on spy pens undoubtedly. She used those to record his private conversations, and it sounds like recorded some of her own. On cross-examination, though, police indicated that they could find no evidence that supported the theory that Barry was having an affair, although they did reveal that he had searched multiple dating sites. The state then presented evidence that Barry stated he and Suzanne, quote, loved each other to death, close quote, and that they had a, quote, very good relationship, close quote. Walker went on to testify that Barry claimed that he and Suzanne had a great night together the night before she disappeared. But Agent Harris then testified and entered evidence that suggested that Suzanne had confided in a friend that she and Barry hadn't had a perfect night in a year and a half. Other texts would come out in that first half of the preliminary hearing suggesting that Suzanne had given up on the marriage. And then the bombshell landed with the revelation that Suzanne Morphew had been involved in a 2-year-long affair with a Michigan man. That shocked and saddened many who listened, and it undoubtedly is going to be revisited over the next 2 days. Let's watch this recap from 9 News to catch us up to date.
Second day in a row, the man accused of killing his wife in Chaffee County was in court. Barry Morphew's preliminary hearing continued today. Mark Salinger is live in Salida. And Mark, for the first time, we're actually hearing details about the days and minutes leading up to Suzanne Morphew's disappearance.
Yeah, Kim, we're hearing details about the days, hours, and minutes leading up to May 9th, 2020, which is the last day that the FBI says that they knew that Suzanne Morphew was still alive. It's all focusing on the Morphew home just outside of Salida. Now, the FBI investigator today testified that Suzanne Morphew was at home sunbathing and sending pictures of herself to her boyfriend while her husband Barry was out of the home that afternoon. When Barry came home, Suzanne stopped responding to his messages. An investigator testified that he wrote in an affidavit that he believed Barry was chasing Suzanne around the home when he returned. That's based on cell phone GPS data. Defense attorneys have said that that data may not be accurate. The judge also saw surveillance pictures of Barry in Broomfield on May 10th, the day Suzanne was reported missing. Investigators say he stopped at 5 trash cans in the area and dropped items off, though they haven't said if they know what he threw away. They also say he changed clothing multiple times that day and put some of the things that he put in the trash cans, and they don't yet know exactly what was in those trash cans. Prosecutors also said today that while they don't have evidence Barry was having an affair, cell phone data shows Barry searched for, quote, cute girls near Salida and was on the online affair dating website Ashley Madison. Now, still, we don't yet know the key facts of this case, which is what evidence these prosecutors have that connect Barry to his wife's death. We're hoping to learn more about that either this afternoon as court continues for another hour or so, or Kim, in 2 weeks when more preliminary hearings are held.
Still so much about a very troubled marriage, and then the fact that no idea where Suzanne Morphew is, aside from the fact that investigators believe she is dead.
Yeah, exactly. We don't yet know where her body is. Investigators have searched for thousands upon thousands of hours and have not been able to find any human remains or any semblance of blood either. And they've searched for so long with not finding anything.
All right. Thank you. Mark Salinger reporting from Salida.
Well, one piece of testimony that continues to bother me came out in the first half of the hearing, and I wanted to just talk about it for a minute. Station KMGH TV reported that investigators believed that Barry was most likely chasing Suzanne around. Now, there were a number of other news agencies that reported this, so I have to assume that it's accurate. Defense attorneys rightly argued that if investigators were leaning on cell phone data for that assumption, Barry, quote, would have to be moving so fast he would be going through walls and moving at speeds not possible for a human. Well, frankly, she hit the nail on the head. This is something that I've been very uncomfortable with, and the assumption is that Barry was chasing Suzanne. If it's based on cell phone data, I really question it, and I want to explore that with you a little further. You see, when data from a cell phone is collected, it's either collected by one of a couple of ways. Either the device location, that little XY coordinate on the phone itself, that's right in the device, or through a process called triangulation. It's based on 3 of the closest cell towers and the towers with the most signal strength. Those towers project where they believe the phone is located, and then it's triangulated to estimate what's called a certainty range. You'll recognize that from the round circle when you look at a map on your phone. And sometimes that's bigger and sometimes it's smaller. The smaller it is, the more accurate. Well, when triangulation is used for analysis, the location can move erratically as these calculations occur. To make this point very clear, I decided I'd just show you how it works. Think about your own phone for a moment and what the screen looks like when you try to find your location on a map. If you're in an area with poor cellular connectivity, there's going to be a larger circle painted around your location. The better the cell phone coverage, the smaller the dot showing your location. Now, if you use both data, the triangulation and Wi-Fi, the accuracy gets much better. Now, I live in an area where there's really good cell phone coverage. I decided to just turn off the Wi-Fi on my phone to show you how location can move around and be erratic. Watch how my location is moving erratically. Even though I'm not moving, I'm sitting in my office the entire time this is playing. I'm in one fixed location. But as the cell towers try to figure out where I am, it delivers a false impression that I'm moving. or in the case of the allegations against Barry chasing Suzanne through the house, that they are running wildly away from, or the other running after. Think about how many times we've heard testimony, including during Andy's search or any discussions that we've had with people in Salida, about how poor the signal for cellular is in the areas around Salida and especially near the Morphew home. I really hope this simple example shows you how misleading the comment by the agent could be. Now, it could be that he's sharing his opinion based on other correlative evidence, but I question the value of this statement if it's only based on the cell phone data, especially if it's only coming from triangulation. I think the next 2 days are going to pull everything together, though, and I really can't wait to hear what comes out today in the trial and then tomorrow. I predict that we're going to hear information primarily from investigators, nobody else. We're not going to have any surprise witnesses. That's my opinion now. But remember, the state's just trying to convince the court with the least amount of evidence being shown that Barry should be bound over for trial based on what they have. They're going to prove enough probable cause to bind him over for trial. We're going to learn a lot in the coming days, especially if the judge agrees to release that arrest affidavit. So here's my question for you. What do you think about the testimony that Barry was chasing Suzanne around the house? Does the cell phone data stand the test of science? I'm really interested in what your thoughts are. I'm going to be reading your comments down below. And I hope that you'll join us for choir practice tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern time. We might even have a couple of people who were in the courtroom sharing their views on what happened during the day. We'll be watching, and I hope you will be, as this thing unfolds throughout the day. But thanks again for supporting us at Profiling Evil. Again, consider hitting that like and subscribe button and get those notifications. And we'll see you soon at the next crime scene.